basikhohlakalele ngoba bacinga bana they will govern until Jesus comes. But I have news for them, Democrats. I have news for them, Dizoti Kubo. Ixesha lifikile. Sizoti Kubo, Sizoli Kupa.
Yes.
Millions of people are uniting behind the DA and will be voting on election day. Sizokupa ezikhohlakali from office. South Africa DA leaders will unveil to you our plan today. Our plan to make sure that we rescue people from poverty, that we get young people into jobs, that we keep our communities safe, and that we ensure that we are phela lo cimicimi ubulala imisebenzi. Phansi ngocimicimi phansi.
DK, I'm going to be short on you 3.
But Democrats, that plan can only be brought to life by you. We cannot bring the plan to life if you don't join us. It can be only implemented if you lend us your vote for the next 5 years. Isithembiso sethu sinye sithi thina imali yoluntu iza kuya ezinkonzweni zabantu. This mission can only take off if we put our hands together with the people of South Africa so that we can rescue our country, because it is our future on the line. It can only work, South Africa, with your support and your endorsement, because ultimately this is your rescue mission. Viva DA, viva! Viva DA, viva! Democrats, sekusele kancane. Sithi nca umuntu wegroundini nca. Sithi nca umuntu wegroundini sithi nca. And now let us stand together and sing the national anthem.
Let's see a wider shot, camera 4. On you 4. DCAM, stand by, please. Patrick. She has a Patrick.
Deep down
Democrats, please join me in welcoming to the stage a man of Kokeli Democratic Alliance, Apwe Gautini, Umfola Pepitoli, Umfola Archridgeville, Umdala Simanga man, our Gauteng candidate, Usalim Simanga!
Halala Democrats, halala! Halala Democrats, halala! Welcome to Gauteng. Ke batla le botsisa hape man. Le teng mona. Are you here? Halala Democrats, halala! Welcome to the province that will soon be rescued. A province that will soon be a blue province where we can then make things to happen here. A province that will soon become the beacon of hope yet again. We want to welcome you to a province that when it sneezes, South Africa will catch a flu. Welcome also to the union buildings. This is where in 1994, Ndate Nelson Mandela stood and said, let there be bread for everybody. Where he stood and said, let there be a dignity of life. But little did he know that a number of years later, that dream that he had was going to be turned into a big nightmare. And we need to rescue South Africa. You know, I'm not going to call that other party by name. And I've said to all of you, and I've said to the Democratic Alliance, let's stop calling their name because they must be irrelevant to all of us from now on and going forward. We need to make sure that the only thing that reigns in people's heads is the name Democratic Alliance. Most importantly, today, as we stand here, we are gathered to say we want to welcome everybody to a future of South Africa. We want to turn the nightmare that we've just experienced in the last 20 plus years into a new era of prosperity going forward. A future where there will be jobs. A future where every person will walk with dignity, with safety. A future where all of us will belong. Not only those that Panyaza Lisufi want to hold back so that they don't vote for somebody else and promise them jobs. We want a future where your skin color is not going to determine the prosperity that you will get in South Africa. I want to welcome Democrats from all provinces. From Mpumalanga, from KZN, from Western Cape, Eastern Cape, City Molweni, Abantu base Limpopo, Abshaweta Nangwena, Abantu base Northern Cape, Uleket Masekeners, Abantu base Free State, Kirdumelam Banabesuka Ofela. And here in Gauteng, I want to then say, come here to where the future, a bright future is starting. I am fighting to win Gauteng because I know that this can be a magnificent province that is worth rescuing. I believe that South Africa is worth rescuing. To everybody watching at home, you are watching the DA assemble in Pretoria in our thousands. And today, we are coming to you with a very, very big statement of intent. We as a Democratic Alliance declare our intent here today. This is the biggest march in the history of the party. And a sea of blue is moving through the capital city to the union buildings in a big statement of intent. This is the next door where we are saying to the President, Ndate Cyril Ramaphosa, we are ready to come take over here. We are ready to come take over Panyaza Lisufi. We want you out because you failed the people. We believe that this historic mission to rescue South Africa and to rescue the people of Gauteng is indeed for you, the people of South Africa, the beautiful people of our province and the beautiful people of our different municipalities. Today, the Democratic Alliance will launch our plan to turn this country around. The moment has never been profound. This time has never been better. the odds of change have never been more in our favor, and we want to say we are ready. With this plan today, we will take every South African on board to be part of the rescue mission to save South Africa. The rescue mission needs each and every one of us to make sure that we play our part. Every South African who believes in the rescue mission, hear our plan today. We welcome you. We want to work with you. We want to save South Africa together. And I want you to remember that the power of one, every election can be won or lost by one vote. Tsamaya ulo butisa mabhokobhoko. Tsamaya ulo butisa ba fitileng pele ba ba kgonneng win a World Cup by only one goal, and we can do it by only bringing one additional person. Be part of that history to rescue our beautiful country with this plan. Please don't let others decide your fate. Don't let anyone else choose your future. Your future can be a better when we work together to rescue South Africa. Be the one. Together, we will rescue South Africa and we will rescue Gauteng. Hala, hala, Democratic Alliance, hala, hala. Phambili, Democratic Alliance, phambili. Ke a leboha.
Viva Democrats, viva! Viva! Viva DA, viva!
Viva!
Siyangena Union Building, siyangena! Democrats, we are almost ready to call our federal chairperson to the stage. However, while we do, the DA leadership is now making its way to the stage so that they can be able to join us on the stage soon. But now, please help me welcome a son of the Veska, usihlalo wombutho wethu, umphathiswa wezolimo eWestern Cape, our federal chairperson, Dr. Ivan Bear.
Good afternoon, Democrats. In 2024, South Africa will be making history. The emergence of a new government is not merely a future possibility. It is now a reality and within our reach. We are now in a clear position to defeat the ANC in a free and fair electoral contest. The situation signifies more than a close proximity to the union buildings. It signifies a new government for the country. We are now electorally closer to the union buildings. We will not only defeat the ANC, together we will defeat the unemployment crisis, the crime crisis, the corruption crisis, and the poverty crisis in South Africa. We are now at the union buildings today to give a clear message to the ANC government. Today, we are serving a notice to the ANC, pack up and go. Your time is up. The event here today is also the eviction notice of the ANC in the union buildings. The ANC eviction notice will take effect at this year's election. We are ready, and we have already in South Africa a lame duck president. We have a lame duck government in South Africa, and the people of South Africa simply had enough. We want a new government in this building over here, in the union buildings. We want a government that serves all the people. We want a government that cares for all the people. A government that does not steal your money. Today, we launch our election manifesto. The manifesto is not a list of empty promises. The manifesto is a product of research, data, and evidence. We believe in evidence-based governance and data-led governance. And this data and the evidence suggest that we must focus on the following issues. Number one, unemployment. Number two, the energy and the water crisis. In some towns, there are no water. Crime, corruption, and lawlessness. We will end cadre deployment and the lack of service delivery. Poverty and inequality. Poor education, poor health care. We will fix it. That's the promise from our manifesto. I want you, as you stand here, imagine a new government in the union building. I want you to imagine a government that governs with humility. I want you to imagine a government that cares for all the people in South Africa. I want you to imagine a government that is free from corruption. I want you to imagine and visualize a government that prioritizes jobs, safety, and free from load shedding. Imagine you have a president who speaks the truth. A president that is looking forward and not looking backwards. Imagine that we have a president in South Africa that honors the oath of office. I want you to imagine a new government honoring the Constitution in South Africa. I want you to visualize your child getting a decent education. I want you to visualize that your children are playing in the street without having to fear for their safety. I want you to imagine you getting a job and care for your family. I want you to imagine that you can travel peacefully on a clean and reliable public transport. I want you to imagine that you compete with a job without worrying about race-based quotas. I want you to imagine our farmers across South Africa can farm peacefully without having to look behind their shoulders. I want you to imagine that we have zero corruption. I want you to imagine that girls and women can walk in the streets without having to worry about gender-based violence. Can you imagine a police force that is not corrupt but honest and professional? Imagine that you have a social welfare system and a grant system that works effectively. Can you imagine that we could live in a peaceful country in harmony without a corrupt government? Imagine a real government that brings in the private sector and finally end load shedding. Imagine going to clinics and hospitals where there are professional staff, enough medicine, enough caring environment when you are sick. Suid-Afrika, dit help nie meer nou om te kla nie. Dit is nou die tyd om die ANC uit te stem. U is nou verantwoordelik vir die toekoms van Suid-Afrika. Hierdie optog is die eerste stap, maar u het nog 'n verantwoordelikheid. Maak seker dat u wel geregistreer is om te kan stem in hierdie verkiesing in 2024. Maar nadat u geregistreer het, moet u asseblief ander mense ook motiveer om te registreer om vir die DA te stem, want ons soek 'n nuwe regering hier in die Uniegebou. Maar u stem gee nou vir u 'n aandeel in die toekoms van Suid-Afrika. Dit is nou u paspoort vir 'n beter toekoms. Your vote is now your share in the future of South Africa. Democrats, democracy is when you vote a government in and when you vote a government out. In 1994, South Africans voted the ANC in. This is now the time to vote the ANC out, because when you vote a government in and a government out, you complete the circle of democracy. And thank you for your support. This march to the Union buildings will go down in the history of South Africa as a turning point in our country. This day will go down in the history books as the day that we, the people of South Africa, recognizes the injustices of the current ANC government in South Africa, and we say enough is enough. Can you repeat? Enough is enough. We want a new government in the Union buildings. Dankie. Kaliboge. Siyabonga. I want you to imagine a new government. I want you to imagine a leader walking up the stairs of the Union buildings. I want you to imagine a new president taking the oath of office, that he or she will become the next president of South Africa and respect the Constitution and honor the oath of South Africa. I want you to imagine a change in the Union buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, I now want to invite the man in the arena, the man that is the architect of the Moonsword Pact. That man is the leader of the official opposition in the parliament in South Africa. I invite the man who led this march with Solim Simanga and our provincial leaders and members of the federal executive to the Union buildings. I now want to invite the man that will, after today, take our manifesto across South Africa. I invite the man of the people. I now invite John Woolligate Steenhuisen to deliver his address.
It's great to be with you today, here at the Union Buildings. We're speaking to you today from an auspicious location. Directly behind me are the Union Buildings. That is the seat of government and the heart of our capital city. Now, these buildings should be the pride of every South African. But over the past decades, these buildings have come to mean something very, very different. It's inside these buildings that the ANC created and executed the plans that have built the world's highest unemployment rate. They've unleashed from those buildings violent criminals on innocent people, and they used those buildings to capture the state. Pansy ANC, pansy. It is inside these buildings that the dreams of millions of hopeful people, including Tinswalo, were betrayed. They were betrayed in those buildings. These same buildings that once served as a symbol of hope when President Nelson Mandela took his oath of office here, have under the ANC been reduced to a crime scene. They are a crime scene. So we are not here today, Democrats, by accident. Our meeting here today is a signal of intent. The Democratic Alliance is launching our 2024 manifesto from the Union Buildings because we today are sending a clear message that in this election we are in it to win it. That in this election we must rescue the Union Buildings from the clutches of a corrupt government, and we must restore them to their rightful place as a symbol of pride for all South Africans. In every election before this one, everybody knew that the ANC would win. The only question was by how much. As a result, in every previous election, the DA's primary task was to consolidate the strongest possible opposition to the ANC, to prevent the worst from happening to our country. But Democrats, I'm here to tell you that all of that changes today. Because today, we embark on a new path and towards a new objective. In this election, the DA isn't going to oppose the ANC. In this election, the DA is going to defeat the ANC. For the first time in our democratic history, support for the ANC is set to drop below 50%. It is a party of the past, a party in terminal decline, being ripped to shreds from all sides. The truth is that the ANC was already on its knees before Jacob Zuma's MK party entered the fray. And as we speak here today, MK is devouring millions of ANC votes. And the ANC only has one man to blame for its demise, and that man is Cyril Ramaphosa. Because for decades, he did everything in his power to enable and protect Zuma. Ramaphosa even freed 15,000 criminals just to keep Zuma out of jail. But today, that very same Zuma is helping to evict Ramaphosa from the Union Buildings behind me. The demise of the ANC has now volleyed the gate for the DA to achieve what was once considered unthinkable, to be able to be a party of national government. In this election, for the first time ever, the DA has a clear path to victory. Now, many of you were at our Federal Congress in April last year when I first announced the DA's commitment to the formation of a moonshot pact to rescue South Africa. Do you remember that at Congress? We were excited about the future because by bringing an end to opposition infighting and consolidating like-minded parties into a cohesive bloc, this formation, which is now known as the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa, offers South African voters the best prospect for political change since 1994. And the DA feels a profound sense of responsibility towards the Charter. Given our size, given our proud track record of clean and accountable government, and our success in delivering services and jobs where we govern, the DA is now committed to becoming the strong, stable anchor party at the heart of a new multi-party government to rescue South Africa from the ANC and build a new future. But in the DA, we don't just seek power for power's sake. For the DA, winning elections and entering government is the means to an ultimate end. And that ultimate end is to serve all of the people of South Africa by making their lives better. And that is why I am proud today to launch the DA's rescue plan for South Africa, our manifesto for the historic 2024 election. And this manifesto is the outcome of the most comprehensive policy-making process in the history of our party. It's built upon a raft of updated policies that we all adopted as a party since 2019. And in this election, a vote for the DA is a vote for a party with a clear plan to rescue South Africa. As the anchor tenant in a new multi-party government, the DA's key priorities during the 2024 to 2029 term will be to, 1, create 2 million new jobs for South Africans. 2, to end load shedding in South Africa and end water shedding. Number 3, halve the rate of violent crime, including murder, attempted murder, and gender-based violence. 4, crush corruption by abolishing cadre deployment in favor of merit-based appointments and a capable state that delivers for all South Africans. 5, lift 6 million South Africans out of poverty. 6, triple the number of grade 4 learners who can read for meaning. And finally, 7, ensuring quality health care for all South Africans. Those are 7 great things. Now, unlike most other parties, we're going to come and promise you the sun, the moon, and the stars. The DA's rescue plan is not pie in the sky. Because it's easy for parties to come and stand before you that have no track record in government to get up and read out a list of impossible promises that they could never implement and never fund. But you know what? South Africans are tired of empty promises. They are tired of hearing about bullet trains when the trains that they used to take to work no longer run. They are tired about industrialization plans when the factories that they used to work in have closed due to load shedding. They are tired of hearing about smart cities when they don't feel safe on the streets of their own cities where they live. So what the DA offers you today are not populist promises, but solemn pledges. We will focus our time in government like a laser beam on implementing these key 7 pledges, because we understand that if you don't fix these key 7 pledges, South Africa does not have a future. So unlike the President's desperate efforts to whitewash his government's failures, the DA's manifesto is rooted in the reality of what South Africa is in 2024, not what it promised to be in 1994. In 1994, our South African dream was for a country where the lives of this generation would be better than the lives of their parents, and that their children's lives would be even better still. But in 2024, the nightmare that confronts us is that the lives of our children could be much, much worse than our own. Because the ANC has so utterly betrayed our nation that we are now further away from fulfilling the dream of 1994 than in any other time in our democratic history. On Thursday, Ramaphosa used a handful of successful young people to try and defend his claim that South Africa is some kind of heaven on earth for Tinswalo in South Africa and her peers born after 1994. Now, don't get me wrong. I salute each and every one of those young people for helping to build South Africa. But the cold, hard truth is that young people in this country do not succeed because of the ANC, they succeed in spite of the ANC. So, if Ramaphosa wanted to honestly reflect on the lives of our young people in South Africa, then for every 3 employed people, he would show us the 7 who have never had a job in their lives. If he was not trying to deceive us, he would admit that every 5 young people that finish matric, there are 5 others who failed or never even made it to matric. If he was honest about crime in this country, he would acknowledge that under his watch, the dead bodies of people murdered would fill the FNB stadium twice over. Pansy ANC, pansy. After all of the damage and destruction wrought during the 15 wasted years under Zuma and Ramaphosa, the 2024 election is sadly not yet about fulfilling our dream of 1994. Instead, this election is about survival, the survival of our South African dream. It's also a shame that the ANC only chose to focus on Tinswalo. No matter what your age, no matter what your name is, no matter where you come from, I want to say to you that over the past 30 years, we have all grown up as democracy's children. But we should not be too surprised that the President excluded from his speech Auntie Fatima from Eldorado Park, Farmer Johan from Citrusdal, and Kishav, the entrepreneur from Chatsworth. After all, this is the same man who deliberately excluded Drickus du Plessis from his recognition as our country's first ever mixed martial arts champion, purely because he refuses to keep quiet about the ANC's corruption. Drickus, the DA salutes your courage, inside and outside the octagon, just like we salute Bafana Bafana, the Springboks, our under-19 cricketers, and Sibanati Monshinga, who yesterday won the World Boxing Junior Flyweight title. We salute all of you. En wanneer ons binnekort is in regering, gaan ons vir jou en al ons sportshelde die erkenning gee wat jou toekom. want die ANC weet nie wat ons weet nie. My fellow South Africans, the only way to keep our South African dream alive is by creating millions of more jobs, including for our young people. The only way to keep our dream alive is by ending load shedding and water shedding, and by winning the war on crime. The only way to keep our dream alive is by abolishing the evil and corrupt system of cadre deployment, which locks qualified people out of jobs and destroys service delivery. The only way to keep our dream alive is by lifting millions of people out of desperate poverty in which they still language, to create schools that teach our children, and to build hospitals that heal the sick. And the DA is the only party with a proven track record and ability to deliver on these pledges. Where we govern in the Western Cape, 8 out of 10 people are employed, and we create more jobs there than any other province. Where we govern in places like Cape Town, we are already reducing load shedding while providing the cleanest drinking water and the best sanitation services in the entire country. Recently, the DA rolled out a groundbreaking new initiative that enables any household with solar panels and a bi-directional meter to become not a consumer, but a prosumer, by being able to sell electricity back into the grid. And it's this same policy that sits at the heart of our manifesto's solution to load shedding for the whole of South Africa. We won't just do it in Cape Town when we're in the union buildings, we'll do it in every town and city across the country. And mark my words today, that the DA's work in Cape Town and the Western Cape is going to lead an energy revolution in this country, and it will be thanks to the implementation of DA policies. Where we govern, Democrats, we've also enhanced local policing through the LEAP program that has reduced violent crime by up to 40% in the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. And even before we've entered national government, the DA is already abolishing cadre deployment. Whether Cyril Ramaphosa and Gwede Mantashe like it or not. And today, I have some breaking news to share with you. So listen properly. I've got some great news. And you heard it here first. As you all know, the Constitutional Court has given the ANC until Monday to hand over their skellum cadre deployment records, dating back to the 1st of January, when Ramaphosa became the chairman. Now, after delaying it for more than 3 years following the DA's initial request for these records to be made public so that we can expose Ramaphosa's role in state capture, the ANC yesterday came crawling back to the DA, and they said, please, we need more time. Should we give them more time? Should we give them more time?
No!
I agree with you. So I'm going to go right back to them and say to them directly, no, you cannot have more time. You cannot have more time in government, and you cannot have more time to hand over these records. You've wasted South Africa's time for long enough. And we're going to say to them, you will comply with the Constitutional Court ruling, or we will make sure that all of you go to jail for the contempt of court, because that's where they belong. Not in the union buildings, they belong in jail. And we will use the precedent created that sends Zuma back to court and to jail, which includes prison time, to prove it. The ANC is so desperate to hide their cadre deployment secrets that they're now threatening to trigger a constitutional crisis to protect Ramaphosa, just like they did with Zuma. So the DA doesn't just talk about fighting corruption and building a capable state. Despite not even being in government yet, the DA is already doing more to rescue the state from total collapse than any other party in this country. My fellow South Africans, built upon our track record, the DA's rescue plan for South Africa will shine a bright light into an array of incredible spotlight into the darkness that threatens to blind us as a country. Now, let me be honest. It's not going to solve all of our problems overnight, because our problems in South Africa are many. But what these 7 key pledges will do is restore our country back onto the path of promise and give us the permission to once again believe in our great South African dream. So, instead of a government that tells you that it's not the end of the world when load shedding makes you unemployed or destroys your business, you can vote for a new government that ends load shedding. Instead of a government with a cowardly leader who's probably busy shredding the rule of law alongside the cadre deployment secrets as we speak, you can vote for a new government with a zero tolerance for corruption. Instead of a government that normalizes gender-based violence, gang violence, and farm murders, you can vote for a government that respects and values our women, our children, that fights gangsterism, and which protects our farmers. As I speak to you today from the seat of national government, I can say unequivocally, the DA is ready to take our rightful place in the union buildings. And make no mistake about this, the ANC knows it too. This past week in Parliament, they told us that the moonshot is their biggest fear. They were so obsessed by the moonshot that some of them were shouting, "Dubula Inyanga." And let me tell you, Dubula Inyanga, that's exactly what we're going to do in this election, Dubula Inyanga. Because we've got the size, we've got the people, we've got the experience, we've got the track record, and we have the plan to rescue this beautiful country before it's too late. And these aren't empty words. They're not empty words. The DA is present in every town, in every village, and every city across this country. And we are led by the strongest leadership collective in our party's history. And I'd now like to invite onto the stage our federal leadership. Let's give them a round of applause. Our premier candidates, our provincial leaders, our deputy leaders and chairpersons, and members of our federal executive. Let's give them a round of applause. And so I say to Tin Swallow, I say to Fatima, I say to Johan, and I say to Keshav, I say to all of you, help is on the way. If you want the DA's rescue plan to sit at the heart of a new multi-party government, then you must vote for the DA to carry this plan into that government. If you want to rescue South Africa from unemployment, from load shedding and water shedding, and from crime, corruption and poverty and hunger, and from failing schools and from broken hospitals, then you must vote for the DA. If you want to rescue the union buildings behind me from the corrupt clutches of those who've plunged our country into hardship, then you must vote for the DA. So, come on, Mr. President, stop cowering away. Call this election, because the DA is ready to fight so that South Africa can win.
Well, there you have it, the 2024 election manifesto of the Democratic Alliance, delivered there by its leader, John Vulligate Steenhuisen. And as you were saying, I'm vulling the gate here to the building behind me. And I must say, there was $1 million shot in there somewhere, just to bring that to life. Mzwai?
They chose this place to basically be symbolic about what their intent is. That is marching into the union buildings.
Dr. Doraj, what did you make of it overall?
The speech of the leader, yeah, it was very aspirational. They've got big dreams, big hopes for these elections, but I remind them again, look at the election data. The enemy is not the ANC. The enemy is other parties that are fishing in the same electoral pool as the DA. Those parties are the Freedom Front Plus. It's Dalil's Good. It's also Action SA, and it's also the Patriotic Alliance. Especially here in Gauteng, we got Johannesburg, we got Tshwane, we got Ekurhuleni, and obviously Cape Town in the Western Cape. So I think that that electoral message is misdirected. The DA needs to introspect. The ANC is not the enemy. The enemy is, the enemy is those other four parties that they need to target, because those four parties are taking away votes from the DA in the strongholds of the DA, and those are the metros.
Well, evidently the focus was on the ANC. You were counting how many times there was actually mention made of the ANC, right?
In fact, Solim Simang, the chair of the DA here in Gauteng, said they are not going to mention that other party, meaning the ANC. But guess what? The chairperson of the DA mentioned the ANC 10 times, and then came the leader himself, John. He was doing the same. So clearly, you can see that what's bothering more is the ANC. But John has put it so eloquently that you may worry about the ANC, worry about your own support. Your own support base is declining. So data is showing us that in order for you to walk into the union buildings, you need to be able to have solid support. If your support is shaky, you need to do more.
So just to sum up, the apex priorities of the DA as per this election manifesto, number one is to create 2 million new jobs, and they do go on to explain in the manifesto how they intend doing this. They talk, for example, about a certificate will be issued, and this can be used and giving people more agency and taking them away, for example, from the collective bargaining council, that is SMMEs, and giving individuals more agency to also step away from the minimum wage stipulations, among others. Interesting reading this makes for. Ending load shedding and water shedding. So also using the Western Cape example of what they have been doing. They still speak to the unbundling of Eskom, greater importance placed on private sector support for that. But of course, also John mentioned it, it is about the consumer also being able to sell excess electricity back. Then half the rate of violent crime, including murder, attempted murder, etc. Talking about the devolution of powers, especially of the police. And then abolish cadre deployment in favor of merit-based appointments. They've been talking about this quite a lot. Lift 6 million people out of poverty. Again, the steps are there. They need to be unpacked. Triple the number of grade 4 learners who can read for meaning. And in all of this, the unions, they speak to the issue of the unions and how that may be hampering some of these objectives that we have as a nation. And finally, the seventh, the last apex priority is to ensure quality healthcare for all, irrespective of economic status, coming up with an alternative to NHI. But I thought it was very interesting, for example, when it came to higher education, the NASFA situation, whereas last week you heard the EFF talk about universal access to funding. The DA are saying no, actually everyone should pay a portion back of the money that they receive from the state. So, very noisy behind us. We're going to hand it back to studio. That's take it there from here at the Union Buildings.